Hey there, Jacks fans. Jason Ruff here, voice of the Jacks, and we have a very special edition of A New Normal. I'm joined by now three former Jacks going clockwise. We have Jack Rudin, Sam Harris, and Kam Ottenbreit, all of them committed to Aurora University. Gentlemen, first off, thanks for joining us, and I hope this summer has been at least somewhat productive, well, with the whole COVID-19 situation and all.
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, thanks.
Have a nice day. So I have some questions for all of you, both individually and as a group, just kind of to figure out how things have been going for you guys this summer as you get ready for the next step, both in your professional and your playing careers, and how your time in the North American Hockey League and specifically in Odessa helped get you to where you guys are right now. So with that all out of the way, with the introductions all said and done, let's get to it. First question for you guys is, in this off season impacted by COVID-19, what has been your preparation like for the next step in your careers?
Go ahead, Rudy.
Well, obviously, it's been crazy, for all of us. You don't really have a set routine. You have to try to make a routine. So I've been trying to, still get up at an early hour and still get a workout in. And, as all of us are, we're all going to the same program. We're all doing the same workout program right now, which has already started for us. And, just trying to stick to a routine and stay to it. And, I was listening to, just another podcast, and, they have different athletes on every week. And I forgot who it was, but someone was saying just stick to a routine and have a routine. And that's been what I've been trying to do each day.
Yeah, so a lot like what Rudy was saying is my daily thing is I just try to be out of bed by 9 at the latest, and then I get a workout in and then go to work and come home. And at night I like to, finish up with a little bit of stick handling or boxing or shooting pucks or something before I go to bed, just to make sure I get it all in.
Yeah, kind of like the same here. Just really been focusing on the off-ice aspect of the game, like just trying to build strength, conditioning, stick handling every day, trying to stretch, just do everything that you normally can't do on the ice. So then when you get back to skating, you can still be ready to go.
Kam, this next question is for you, but everyone else feel free to chime in. What was the best thing about living and playing in Odessa?
It was a nice change of weather from Michigan. You weren't going to have 12 inches of snow unexpectedly, and then all of a sudden 70 degrees one day and then rainy the next. But I really, really liked the focus on the development from Coach Adam in Odessa when we were having morning skates at 10:30 in the morning that were optional, but I think most of the guys showed up to them because everybody wanted to get better, and there was plenty of time and room for improvement there, and if you weren't improving, it was your own fault.
Yeah, I have to agree too. Playing down in the South, which is, in my opinion, the toughest division, just having a challenge every single weekend and you had a different challenge every single weekend, and you didn't know what you were going into. And I love that about playing in the South and in Odessa.
Playing in Odessa is great. Like the weather, like you can't beat that. Like at first I was up in Maine, and like you get all those bad snowstorms coming and all that. You don't have to deal with any of that there. And just the division itself is the best in the league, I think.
And what will you guys miss the most about Odessa? Not necessarily just the hockey, but the town and the people.
I think I'm really going to miss my billets. I had some really good billets, and I still keep in touch with them. I actually FaceTimed them the other day and just kind of caught up on what they're doing, what they're going through. And a lot of people down there, because of all this COVID that are in the oil industry and everything, they're kind of suffering. I know my billet dad lost his job, and now my billet mom's trying to pick up the slack. So it's tough to see them like that, but I do miss being around them and seeing them every day.
Yeah, I have to agree with Kam. You're gonna miss I miss my billets and everything else with around it. Just coming to the rink every day, just the Coliseum. I miss the Coliseum all the time, just the room.
Being around all the boys.
Yeah, being around all the boys, and it was a fun. We struggled. We had our ups and downs, but all the boys. It was a great year, I thought.
Yeah, definitely gonna miss the boys and just the staff at the Coliseum. Like we had a lot of ups and downs, but like towards the end there, it really became like a really tight group and stuff, and started like clicking. And that's probably the closest we've been all year was that last couple weeks, and really gonna miss a lot of the boys.
Absolutely.
Like you were saying, Jay, we definitely would have won at least 2 of those 3 games going into Corpus. Everybody was riding high.
That certainly was the mood, and I think I told you guys too. Like I before we got on, I have felt a really good mood going to that Corpus series. Unfortunately, the season was axed or postponed at that point, and then eventually canceled because of the COVID-19. And Jack, you kind of mentioned it briefly, but I want to go into a little bit deeper subject. What can you describe what it's like playing at the Ector County Coliseum?
You know, it has. I mean, all you guys can attest to it. It's got like that distinct like feeling to it. Like, you know that you're in, you know, like a
Odessa.
yeah, you know, like it's got that feeling to it. And you know, I'm gonna miss just, you know, having the fans there and the lights. You know, whenever you're skating around during warm-ups, the lights are all in your face.
You can have a seizure if you don't pay attention to where you're going.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're gonna miss that. And you know, just the sights and the sounds and the fans that were all there all the time. I mean, that's going to be the biggest thing for me that I'm going to miss.
And for all of you, how impactful was it interacting with the community in terms of your growth as a college hockey player and prospect? How big was that community aspect towards your development in getting to the next level?
I really enjoyed going to the schools and stuff. I thought it was fun, and it was fun to, especially when we went and we helped out the mentally challenged at the VFW, just to see the happiness we brought them over a simple meal and the smiles, and you could tell we kind of touched them just from simply passing out food and saying hello.
Yeah, like doing all that stuff definitely helps you like move on to in like college, because where you're in juniors, mainly everything's just about hockey and just all that. Whereas like when you're going to school, you have to focus on your school and hockey and a bunch of different aspects of it. And this way you're not just focused on hockey, like you're out in the community helping other people, doing other things. So it kind of keeps you in like a real day-to-day like life.
Right.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Sam. And you know, when I was growing up, you know, around here, we had the Whalers, so they were always around the community and stuff, and that really rubbed off on me when I was younger. So when we would go to the school, and you know, I'd always think about that, you know, when, you know, us being Jackalopes, you know, the kids look up to us, and you know, kind of like how, you know, me and Cam probably did growing up and looking up to the Whalers. So I mean, just the impact of that as a kid, you know, and helping out, you know, the community and in the schools, I think it's great.
And this next question is for all of you. How did playing in Odessa in the North American Hockey League make you a better hockey player in person?
Just like the league itself in general, it's a really good developmental league. And again, Odessa's in the South Division, which personally I think is one of the best divisions in the league, and a lot of other people agree on that. Like I ended up starting in Maine, and when I went from the east to the south, like right away you could tell it was much harder. It's faster, more physical. It's not just like all based on skill. It's every aspect of the game. It's a great way for you to develop. And then in Odessa itself with Coach Adam, like having the morning skates before practice to work on like special skills and stuff that he does. Like he'll make video of like certain things that NHL guys work on every day and go out there and help us with that. And it really helps improve.
Yeah, no, you know, I hate to do it, Sam, but I have to agree with you. You know, I know, Jay, you want a different answer here, but you pretty much summed it up the whole entire answer.
And like just to touch on what Harry was saying, Adam's video wasn't just your typical, here's a video clip, here's what you did wrong, here's what you did right. He'd take that video clip and he'd break it down into pieces and show us what an NHL guy would do, his thought process, what he did, what your options would be, not just one option of what you could do right, one option of what you did wrong. He'd break it down and show us the multiple different options on what we needed to do to become better hockey players.
Is there some satisfaction for you guys knowing that you helped lay the groundwork and the culture foundation for the Jackalopes going into the future?
For me, yeah. I mean, you know, I think, you know, like we've touched on during this whole thing, I mean, we really thought we were taking off. You know, we were right there, and we had, like, you know, in the last 10 games, I think we were going to do something special. And now, you know, with the players that they've, drafted and tendered, and, it just looks like it's going straight up. So, I mean, it's just a start, and, Adam, started it towards the end of last season, and I think the future's only up.
I think it's nice to look back, and I'm kind of excited to kind of see what guys we played with, like Isaiah and Graham and Max, what they're going to do next year. I think that those three guys can really lead that team, especially Isaiah. I mean, you saw Isaiah came in as a rookie and got an A. I think that kind of speaks for itself on his character and his work ethic and everything. And I think a lot of guys really respect him. And I think that with that and the new coaching staff and the guys they have coming in, like Jack said, I think that I'm really excited to see what they can do next year.
Yeah, definitely think that they have a pretty high chance of being a powerhouse next year, like being a good team. Like from where we finished this year to the returners they're having and the guys they just drafted and tendered, like I saw all those picks, like they definitely seem like they're going to have a really good team coming this year.
And so for someone who is thinking about coming to the North American Hockey League, specifically to the Jackalopes, in your opinion, why should they come and play for Odessa?
Personally, I think it's one of the best places to develop. I mean, kind of like what we all said earlier is like when you have those morning sessions and then after that you have practice and then a workout, like you're given every opportunity to develop every day and get better with ice time, workouts, all that. And like we do stretches after workouts once we get back to the locker as a team and stuff. And like we'll do daily skill work like off the ice, such as like stick handling stuff. Also, you're given every opportunity to become a better hockey player there.
I'd also, aside from the whole hockey aspect and getting better, I just think that the fans are really fun to be around. And in the East, you don't have a rodeo in your own barn that you can come and see. And I really enjoyed that. I thought that was fun. We got the big group of guys together. Everybody went and had a good time. And I just think there's a lot of things you can do around there to bond, whether it was bowling or axe throwing or I think it's just it's a great city in general.
Yeah, no, Kim, I agree with you. I mean, to go back to the hockey part of it, it's very structured. I mean, when, we knew what we were doing every single day, when we'd come to the rink, Adam would have all the, the practice plan all up, and we'd watch video here, we'd go on the ice then. And, if you want to have a structured plan of action in a really good city so you can build around and just there's so many different options and ways you can get better there. It's basically all in your hands.
So we've talked a bunch about the Odessa Jackalopes and your thoughts moving into the future. I want to take it to a different direction now. Let's talk about you gentlemen, specifically the next step in your careers, which is Aurora University. And Jack, I want to start with you. You were the first to commit to Aurora. What was that whole recruitment process like, and how did you come to your decision?
Well, it was a little different, obviously, with all of the coronavirus that was going on. And so Coach Bloomberg reached out to me in January. That was the first time I talked to him. And, it was just, small talk here and there. And then he came out to watch all three of us. And I think it was February, I think. And, I just, I was talking to a few other schools and, obviously being down in Odessa, I couldn't really get any opportunity to go up and visit at schools. So, my plan was to really open up the recruiting process after the season ended. And just after being on that for, an hour and a half, 2 hours and talking to Coach Bloomberg and, seeing where I would fit in and how, we'd keep going and how, he's built that program from where, it was and now where it is now. And I was just blown away. And, it's only 4.5 hours away from my home here in Michigan. And, it was just kept on adding up and it was just a great fit. So once I took the visit, I was sold on it and I committed right there.
And what spoke to you specifically about Aurora, and why? What made the final decision? Was it the proximity to home? Was it the program? Was it a combination? What was that it factor that made you decide this is where I want to spend the next step of my collegiate and hockey career?
I think it was definitely a combination of both. With proximity to home, the school, and the hockey. To be honest with you, when you're going through a process like that, Sam and Kam can attest to it also. I mean, you're looking at so many different other things too. School's obviously number one. You got to see I mean, it's 4 years of your life. You want to do business. I'm going to go to the business school in sports management. And I was really looking at that and like where I can go out of there and how would that work. And then, the hockey program was honestly, it was second. I mean, the team is already really, really good and they just want to keep on building up. And, it's all about fits at that point. And I wanted to go in and, have a spot where, I'm going to go in and play. And, I wanted my parents to come and be able to watch, obviously last year being in Texas, my parents didn't make it down all year. So I wanted them, to come and be close to home and be able to come see some of my games.
Kam, Sam, what was the it factor for you two gentlemen that made you decide that you wanted to join Jack in Aurora with the Spartans?
You can go here, Cammy, first.
I think the main thing was you're going to want to go somewhere you're wanted. So a lot of what I experienced was the same that Jack and Sam experienced, and you're really going to want to go somewhere you're wanted and you're going to play and that the coach tells you where you're specifically going to fit in. I personally talked to Aurora when I was in Blaine, that first opening showcase after the first game. Coach Bloomberg and Greenberg came down and talked to me, and they were the one school that kept in touch the whole time and kind of made sure I knew I was wanted from that moment and just continued to push and push and push. And I think what really, really did it in for me was when Coach Bloomberg came down to Odessa. He didn't have to do that. That was a really, really long, extensive trip for him. He actually flew to Dallas and then drove to Odessa because they couldn't afford to pay for him to fly into Odessa. So just him taking the time to come watch us three and then coming to the locker room and sitting down, having a meeting with us. And he had a meeting with my dad as well because my dad happened to be in Odessa. I think that it really made me feel wanted and that this was somebody that wanted to put his time into me for the next 4 years and that he thought I could contribute to a winning team. And then obviously my family loves Chicago. We always take a trip down to the air show down there every year. So this year it's going to be nice because hopefully if all this clears up here, we're going to go down a little bit early and have a little more time in Chicago because I'll be down there for school. And my dad obviously played in Chicago, so he's very familiar with the area. He loves the area. And then, like Jack said, I did a Zoom meeting and toured the campus, and it was really modern. Everything was very top-notch, clean, just looked really nice. And obviously this Aurora team was not the best a few years ago. They're pretty bottom of the barrel, and to see from where Coach Bloomberg came in and built this program up to what it is now to where I think we have a solid shot at winning the national championship next year, or if not next year, in the next 4 years. And I've talked to a few guys that I know on Aurora who absolutely love the coach and the facilities and everything. And from everything I've heard and seen, the area and everything is top notch.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same here for me. I first talked to Aurora when I was in Blaine at the showcase. And ever since then, Coach Greenberg and Bloomingberg were like texting me, calling me at least like once a month, just keeping tabs on me. And I think I really started to get a feel for like I wanted to go to Aurora was when Coach Bloomingberg came out to our games there at the end of the year. And like that really just showed how dedicated he was to coming to get us three. Like he came out to the middle of Odessa just for one game, just to watch us. Like that shows a lot from a coaching point of view, how bad he wanted us. And then talking to Coach Adam, like there was at the time a couple schools that I was really interested in going to, and Coach Adam, like he knew Bloomingberg kind of like decently well, and I just talked to him for a couple hours after one of the games, and just he told me a lot about him as a coach. And one of my buddies, Grant Bondi, goes to Aurora and told me a bunch about the school and everything. And just after that Zoom tour of Aurora and everything, I fell in love with the campus. I knew it was the right spot.
So was anyone doing recruiting for the other two? Because Jack was the first commit. Was he recruiting you guys as well? Because hey guys, come on, join me. Because I know some football players and some basketball players, they'll do that. Was Jack doing any recruiting to help push you guys towards your decision or encourage you to come join him?
During the year, I mean, definitely in practices, us three would all be in the locker and be like, hey, like, so like this Aurora just called me last night, like said this, and this, and like just talking about it. And we would all have like the same phone call and same talks and just be like, hey, like, are you thinking about committing? Like, what's your thought about it? Or like, are you going to go? Or just to see if all three of us would end up in the same spot.
Yeah, I think there are more than one conversation in the locker room. We're like, hey,
Yeah.
who's committing? When are you committing? And are all three of us going to go here? And I think I'd say we're all pretty happy with our choice. I'm very happy with my choice.
Yeah.
So, Jack, we know you're going into sports business, correct?
Yeah, I'm still thinking about either sports management or business. That's what I'm thinking about right now.
Cam, Sam, do you guys know what subject of study you guys are thinking about?
Yeah. So you can double major at Aurora. So I'm going to definitely major in sports management. And then for my second major, it's either going to be marketing or business management.
Yeah, so I'm going to do that double major thing as well, but I'm a little different than Jack and Harry. I'm going to major in biology, major in chemistry.
Ooh, there you go. There you go. So we're going to start calling you Dr. Ottenbreit one day?
We'll see. We'll see.
Probably while I'm working for Jack or Sam, or maybe a combination of both of them in the future. Who knows? Jack, I want to stay with you for a second here as we go back and look at some of the great points for all of you gentlemen over the course of this season. Jack, I want to go back to February 1st, the Permian Basin Strong game. Describe what the emotion was like on that ice, both before the game and as it progressed.
Well, I mean, going into that night, we all knew, what that night meant, not only for, just us as a hockey team, but for, that was more than just us as a hockey team, that was for the whole city and, what went on. And we wanted to win that game for the city, not even for us. I mean, we all know the story of, our losing streak, going into that game and, and what that did. And, but just the feeling of it, with the survivors, the families that were, on the ice and it was just special, everyone, going out there and, taking a picture with the families and, we knew we had to go win that game. I mean, in the room just before the game, it was just a different feeling and everyone was, you could really feel the, how everyone was, how we needed to go in with a different mentality to that game. And, I still remember that game like it was yesterday. I mean, I know Sam and Kam probably do also, but, that it just meant so much for the city. That's all I really have.
And you, of course, were a big part of that victory, had 2 goals, including the empty netter. At what point on the ice did the bench realize that, oh my gosh, the Jack's going to win this game? And not only that, it's going to be a good win. Not just a close win. It's going to be a good win.
Yeah, I mean, we came out pretty strong. I think probably the second period when we really were taking that commanding lead, we were like, all right, let's go now. Like, we finally beat the streak and, we knew that was a huge win for everyone.
Mm-hmm. And you had the empty net goal to kind of seal the deal and put a bow on the situation. What was the first thing going through your mind when you see that empty netter go in, knowing that you're about to snap that massive winless streak that you alluded to and pick up a huge win, not only for the Jackalopes, but for the city of Midland and Odessa as well?
Not missing that. No. I mean, when you're out there with an empty, when the net's wide open like that, you just, more or less just want to chew the time off. So, I made sure I got an extra few strides and, I remember the puck went up right up to Isaiah and he hit me, kind of like, around the dot, and I kind of just came in, I just wanted to put it on net. And, once that went in, I was just, all of us, I just felt so relieved. And, not, like I said, that was not us, that was for the whole city. And, it's been through so much. And, I wasn't there when it took place. And, just coming there and being, adopted by Odessa for that, for my time period of being there. And you really feel like you're a part of the city. And, it was a very emotional night.
And this next question's for all of you. Feel free to chime in. Would you say that game was the high point of your season, or was that one of a couple high points? Was that the main point? I guess what I'm trying to say.
I think that was the start of the upward trend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was the point there. I think, as I said before, I think that was the night that the first game we played where we had gotten all the guys out of the locker room that didn't really want to be there and they didn't really want to win. They were just there to play. I think that night was the group of guys that wanted to be there and were just determined to win. And I think we went into that knowing that, and we knew we were going to win going into that night no matter what.
Yeah, like Cam said, that was actually our very first game with the final group of guys we had.
We had a whole new team.
Yeah, it was everyone who wanted to be there, everyone who wanted to compete, everyone who wanted to buy into the system and do what Coach Adam had planned out for us, and everyone just worked that day.
Yeah. Well, if that was the start of the high point, which you guys just alluded to, then obviously the crescendo or the climax, you could say, was the OT winner against what was going to be a playoff team in the Topeka Pilots. Sam, switching gears over to you, you may have the honorable distinction of being the only Jackalope to score an overtime winner both for and against the Odessa Jackalopes in the same season. How meaningful was that OT win against Topeka for you personally?
A lot of us were just sick of losing a bunch of games, like win one here, lose like 5 or 6 here, and then win one, and just going back and forth like that. And we were finally starting to play good as a team. Like you could tell in practices and stuff before that, like the week before, like we were all just so much better together, like clicking, and practices were more smooth and everything. And when we won that game, I felt like that was a huge turning point too. Like for the last 10 games of the season coming in, like they were going to be our games. Like we weren't going to lose.
And aside from the OT winner, what do you most remember from that game from a player's perspective?
From the game, just how hard everyone was competing. Like I remember, like we'd come back to the bench, and like at times, like we were playing like 2 lines at a time, and just guys being gassed and like coming back to the bench, like, oh, you're back out. And then I remember one, like I ended up taking a bad penalty. I think it was like in the second or third, and our PK was just phenomenal then. Like everyone had character and heart and wanted to win the game. Like we had guys blocking shots and doing whatever it took. And I just remember out the compete level from everyone.
One of the funny things that I'll always remember about that game, just from an outsider looking in, and feel free to correct me if there was something different going on the ice, but just how in shock the opposing team was that the Jacks had won that game, Sam, that you had scored in overtime after commanding the overtime for the most part, because you had a team like Topeka, who's a playoff team, very well versed and experienced in post-regulation play. In fact, in coming into that weekend, they were coming off a win in overtime against Amarillo, who's the best team, one of the best teams in the division. And the Jackalopes haven't played an overtime game since November of that year. But the Jackalopes control the play, they get the power play, and then they win the game. Topeka just was standing around just like, did that just happen? Did you guys notice that as well when you guys were celebrating on the ice?
I think going into most of our games, especially in the year, people just had us written off. People were just, hey, this is an easy win here. We're going to come in, we're going to win and leave and take our bus home. We can kind of take the week off and just kind of go half speed and we can win. And I think the reason people could do that is because obviously we were on that big losing streak at the beginning there, and we had the tensions when you lose in the locker room are just insanely high. Guys are fighting over the stupidest things just because everyone's just so sick of losing and so irritable. And I think that weekend just really was the point where guys are like, okay, we're going to win these next 10 games. And I think Topeka was shocked because that was never a team Topeka had played. That was a new team right there. And I think they were shocked as to the fire we came out with.
Sam, I know I've asked you this question off camera, but I want to ask it on camera. How tough was it to put that puck into the net when you had a guy literally almost bear hugging you in the crease?
Yeah, pretty tough. I mean, kind of just hope for the best there, but no, like again with Adam, like those skills practices, like what we've been working on. I actually believe it was that week too, like when it was like midweek or something. One of the morning skates we were working on, like just cutting across the blue, getting shots. And then after you shoot, you go in front and like work on tips. And I ended up tipping it in off. Well, I like batted it out of the air off the goalie, but definitely think that helped from previous work with Adam by doing those tips and stuff.
Awesome. Kam, I want to switch gears over to you. Take us back to November 15th. The Jacks are hosting Corpus Christi. You have 3 assists in that game. That was a monstrous offensive effort for the Jacks. What do you remember most about your performance and how well the team was clicking as a unit during that contest?
That game, that was right when Rudy got there. That was Rudy's first weekend, and I was pretty motivated, not only for myself to kind of prove what I could do, but to help Jack kind of not get back at his old team, but make sure his old team knew what they were missing. And so I know he was one of my assists, and I think Brackett was the other, and Grimaldi. And I can't take all the credit for those assists. Those guys put in tons of work in order to do that. I remember my assist to Grimaldi. Brackett worked his butt off on the wall to get it to me in the middle so that I could get it to him. And our D worked their butt off in the corner to throw it up to me on the wall where I tipped it to Rudy, and Rudy went down and scored. And I remember Brackett's goal. Our whole line was working in the corner super hard. One cycle happened, and one thing led to another, and pucking it up in the back of the net. And I remember that night, I knew we were going to win. For sure. We had, the energy in the locker room. We had new guys in the locker room that really wanted to be there, guys that had something to prove. And I was just really excited for that night and really excited with our performance that we had.
Fast forward a little bit into the season when Coach Adam took things over shortly after New Year's. How much of a shift was there in terms of mentality of the group, and how did that impact your personal play on the ice?
Well, for me, honestly, not much changed right at first, obviously Adam got named head coach on a Thursday, and we played, a 3-3 that first weekend. So, I mean, I think it was a 3-3 against Amarillo, but, whenever I think we needed, I think as time went on, the changes more changes happened. And I think, Adam is, he's probably the most positive coach I've ever been around ever. I mean, even with all the losing that was going on, and he's, he was really big on just staying positive and just coming to work every single day and sticking to the plan and sticking to the systems. And, I think his positivity was just over the top.
I think at first guys kind of took advantage of his positivity and his kindness to the point where Adam obviously was his first year coaching, thrown into a head coaching position. He was kind of, the player's coach to us as the assistant coach, kind of closer to our age, been through our experiences, kind of like the nice guy around the room. And I think the biggest thing for him was he had to work on the whole, all right, I need to kind of demand a little more respect from these guys and show them that, hey, I'm the coach. I'm not just a friend, but I'm a friend outside the rink, but when we're at the rink, we're here to work. And so there were times you could see him get frustrated, and guys were like, oh, he does get frustrated. Like, we should start, working hard for him. And I think by the end of that transition, I think that first weekend, everybody was just in a culture shock, and we were just, okay, what's going on? But the more time we spent with Adam and the more he demanded from us, and I can honestly say I don't think I've ever seen Adam yell or mad, but the way he handled himself from us and kind of demanded respect from us, I think he did a really good job of it. And by the end, I was proud that he was my coach, and I was glad he was my coach, and I respect him fully.
Yeah, like when Adam took over, when we had our exit meetings, I even told him this, that he was one of the best coaches I ever had. Like, even though it was his first year coaching, just the knowledge he brought on with him, like from his days of playing and everything, he knew so much about the game and like about like certain situations on like what you can do to get out of those and how you can like produce and all that. And just, he was one of the best coaches I had, and he helped me tremendously as a player. And I couldn't be any more thankful that he took over at that time and did what he did.
Yeah, certainly. I really do think that Adam coming in and was really a positive step for the organization and bring you guys up. And having the finish that the Jackalopes had, Obviously, I think it's great that he's being retained and being a part of the next chapter, and I think the Jackalopes organization benefits greatly from his experience moving forward. Kam, another question for you. Obviously, your dad played college hockey for the old UIC Flames back in the old CCHA days. That's his jersey in your background, right?
Yes, it is.
Awesome. Old number 26. So understanding that you're going to go play college in the same general area, Aurora, Chicago, not quite in the same city, but same general locale, how much does that mean to you that you're going to go play hockey, at least in somewhat the same stomping grounds that your dad played?
My dad's been my biggest supporter since I was little, him and my grandpa. And so I've always tried to follow in my dad's footsteps, and he's always tried to help me and give me the tools needed to do so. And I think it was just a huge satisfaction knowing that I was going to be able to play NCAA hockey, following his footsteps. And for it to be in Chicago, near Chicago, where he played, is huge as well. And I know he's super proud of me, and he was very excited when I made the decision. And I think he's just really excited to kind of get back down to Chicago and watch some hockey and be in the city again and have an excuse to get into the city.
Hey, everyone who can find an excuse to get to Chicago, I encourage them to take it. It's a wonderful city. I know I'm biased, but it is. It really is. Last question for all of you gentlemen. Obviously, we're getting into the preseason camps right now. We have pre-draft camp coming up for the Jackalopes, followed by main camp, and then we'll get into the preseason and then the regular season as well. For speaking as players who have gone through that whole process, the draft, the camps, the preseason, all that, what is your biggest piece of advice you would give to a new player coming in to the North American Hockey League, going through all this for the first time?
Well,
Go ahead.
Well, for me, I was never drafted or tendered in the North American League. And so my advice to all, to younger guys that are coming up and going to tryout camps and everything. And, what I say to, even, younger guys last year, it's like, don't get caught up with all the other, stuff that goes on with it. So, if you're at a camp and, he's a draft pick, if you're not drafted or, don't get caught up in that, you still have to go to the main camp, make the team. And, at the end of the day, they're going to take the best, 30, 40 players out of main camp to go to the training camp. So, every single day is a grind, and you have to keep your job every single day, because if you don't, someone else, they'll find someone else that will do it. So, that was what I would tell the, the younger guys. And, you just have to bring it every single day. And, that's what I like about it too, is because, if you're not picking up your slack, you gotta go. So it's an everyday thing.
Yeah. So one thing I would say is you're going to a camp where you've got 100 plus guys that are all relatively same skill level. You're going to have to stand out somehow. So, what I like to do and what I did with Odessa is give the head coach, or actually called Adam, give the coach a call. And it's when you go to those camps, those coaches are also watching 100 plus kids every day. And you can't watch one kid the whole camp. You got to spread it out. So one shift could be the determination of I want this kid or I don't want this kid. So every shift you got to play your best and do your best. And that doesn't mean you got to go out there and be that soup, but that means go out there and have a work ethic where the coach says, okay, that kid might not be the most skilled, but he definitely works the hardest. And following Jack, I was never drafted. I was never tendered. I was cut from countless teams. I would make the All-Star game in countless NA camps, and I'd get cut. And the biggest thing I'd say is you can't put your head down and walk away defeated. You pick your head up and say, okay, what did I learn? Why did I get cut? What did I do wrong? Email the coaches of what you get cut, where you get cut, and say, hey, I appreciate if you have any advice, what I could do better. And so I knew going into Odessa's camp, that was my last shot to make an all-team, and I gave it my all, and obviously good things happened, and I'm proud to have been able to call myself an Odessa Jackalope.
Yeah, so kind of like what Rudy said, like, don't worry, like, if you were drafted or tendered or, like, you signed before. Like, I wasn't drafted or tendered or anything when I originally went to Maine, and one of my roommates during training camp was actually a tender, and I was like, oh, well, this kid's, like, already on the team, blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, like trying to do the math and figure out like if I'm going to be there or not, like within the next month. And it ended up being he was one of the kids to go home at the end of the day, and he was a tenured player, whereas I was not signed or anything. Ended up making the team, so you can't really get caught up in any of that. And then while you're at main camp, like do what you do best. Like if you're a two-way forward that just works hard and like good in the D zone, like don't go out there thinking you're Datsuk or Crosby trying to be a skilled guy and do something you're not, because that's just not your skill set and you're not going to look as good as you normally do. Just stick to what you do well and do it. Do it to your best ability, and that's all I can say.
Excellent advice, gentlemen, and advice I'm sure will be beneficial to the next generation of North American Hockey League players and the next generation of Odessa Jackalopes. Gentlemen, I thank you so much for spending a brief portion of your day with us today. Jack Rudin, Sam Harris, Kam Ottenbreit, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for everything you have done for the Odessa Jackalopes organization. And on behalf of the Jackalopes and the entire city of Odessa, I wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors. Thank you so much. It's been great talking to you.
Appreciate it.